Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Explicit Podcast. Dang it. Explicit Measures Podcast with Tommy, Seth, and Mike. Hello. How's it going?
So I may be laughing at now every intro because I realize we're on mute and obviously no one can see us beforehand. And we hear the intro too. So I'm going to try to jam out as much as possible and try to time it just perfectly from now on.
Well, I enjoy it. So we've changed the intro. So if there's some new intro music, that's what you're hearing now. We kind of try to modernize here a little bit, make it a little bit more fun. And every time I jump on this, I see Seth just doing a little head wiggle. Just not a lot, just a little head wiggle.
So that's cheating because since you're the host,
I can see
you
it.
can see us, but we can't see you. We're just like in this side thing. I'm just
exactly. And Tommy's over there. And then Tommy was doing this. He was like pumping his fists, and I'm like doing arm waves, and I forgot that you guys can't see me. So
my goal is going to try to make you laugh right when the intro starts. From now on.
Amazing. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. If you are in Chicago,
it is a happy Tuesday for you.
It is a happy Tuesday for you. So if you're in Chicago, we are too. This is a pre-recorded episode, so we're recording this beforehand. However, we will be appearing at the Chicago Data Insight Summit today. This is early this morning, but we will be there. And if you want to join us, you can still do so. I think you can still sign up. This is the day of the event. Therefore, if you want to join, go to
jump on that train.
Jump on that train. Come on down.
The airplane.
Or come to downtown. Go to visit datainsightsummit.us. That's the website. The event is happening. Actually, it happened yesterday. So Monday was the pre-conference, which I hope my session went well because I'm pre-recording this. So hopefully it'll go off swimmingly well. And then there'll be 2 full-day sessions, Tuesday and Wednesday. And then if you want to get $100 off, you can use the promo code PROMO22 to get $100 off your registration if you're joining these and right here at the last minute. So we hope to see you here. Tommy, you've got an intro here. Something just happened in your life on Friday that is making you larger than life.
Oh, yeah. So this is Friday. This is not Tuesday for us. So maybe we're wondering, there's quite a bit of Yankee stuff you got around. And for those who are just listening, there's a hat, there's a shirt with the man's name on it.
Jeter.
Up there. Yep. So today is Derek Jeter Day at Yankee Stadium. And
no one really knows what that is, but that's okay.
Nobody knows who Derek Jeter is.
I'm just teasing you, Tommy.
But anyways, huge for me. So we're going to, however long this podcast is going, you may not hear me stop talking because I will be watching Derek.
just walk out. You're like, all right, guys, time's up.
Peace.
Yes, even though he's already in the Hall of Fame, all that, he's going to be at the stadium. He hasn't been there in a while. They're going to honor him. Cool. It's huge. Anyways, made me start thinking the guy is like larger than life to me, like huge. I've watched him since I was a kid. So just wondering what you guys had when you guys were kids, whether it was sports, a movie, something else that was like a figure that was just a hero, like a Herculean figure for you.
Herculean figure?
Yes.
Someone that's just larger than life.
Yeah.
By the power of Grayskull.
Yours was Captain
He-Man. No, man, He-Man.
Oh, okay.
He-Man was the real deal as far as cartoons, but Michael Jordan was my guy. Like, dude. Even as a kid, just it crushed me because I was a Wisconsin native, right? And
yeah,
I'm like I don't care. The Chicago Bulls are my thing, man. Because loved and watched as much as I could of him. I'd love just an amazing player. Yep.
All right, this may be pulling me into the backwoods kind of area. I remember as a kid, I loved monster trucks. Monster trucks was my jam. And there was one monster truck that even today I still get really excited around. It is Gravedigger. So Dennis Anderson in the Gravedigger monster truck was like the coolest thing. And I just loved seeing axles and wheels and things just flying off of these trucks as they were just going crazy. So as a kid, I loved the monster truck space, and we went to a couple monster truck rallies and stuff like that. So
you got to see him live.
I got to see him live a couple times, yeah. So that was super fun. And as a little kid, what you always do is you go up to these big monster trucks, and you're small, and you sit in the tire of the truck, and you can literally fit in the wheel well of the tire, and you take a little picture of yourself in there because these tires are just monstrous. It's just huge. Anyways, I thought that was just the coolest thing watching monster trucks crash and jump over things and all that kind of stuff. So as soon as I
That
had,
is cool.
I had my son, as soon as he was old enough, we were watching Monster Jam. We had a whole bunch of monster trucks that we would collect, run around, and it was super cool. Thought that was fun. So he was larger to life for me, literally larger than life. It was a huge truck.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, real quick. So like Jeter and the Yankee. Well, for those who are Long Islanders out there, Jeter. So because you don't say the ER, so I did lose that. But I mean, when we moved to Florida when I was really young, and I always felt a very tie to the Yankees because I knew how to get there from my old house in New York. Like it's like take the LIR, take the A, you're there, kind of thing.
Boom.
And it's just like so it was always like a connection to home. So like I mean, I don't think the same type of goosebumps, but I mean, if I watch something from like 2000, the World Series or 2001, I'll get the same goosebumps. Mr. October with Derek Jeter in the 2001 World Series.
Okay.
Or Mr. November. I'm sorry for anyone to do Mr. November. So
you're going to get it, Tommy.
Yeah.
I can tell you. So we just recently went to visit the Packer Hall of Fame as a family. And so for those of you who are Wisconsinites who have, so the Packer Hall of Fame has a lot of memorabilia in it. And I think I want to say there are 6 trophies in the, what is the name's escaping me?
Super
The Lombardi Trophy?
The Lombardi Trophy.
So I think they have 6, maybe more. I can't remember, but they've been world champions a couple times.
It's a lot.
It's a
that
lot.
Trophy room is crazy.
It's pretty crazy. So we went there, and there's like this Hall of Fame room. It has all the jerseys, and you can like read about the memorabilia, and you can see different people in different eras. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking into one of the rooms. I'm like, honey, are you crying? Are you having a tear moment? And she was like, yeah, it's bringing back a lot of childhood memories and emotion, and watching the Packers and having them win. So it brought back a lot of really good nostalgic memories, and she was like really moved by going to see the Packer, the Packer Hall of Fame. So
that's awesome.
I had a similar feeling when I went over to Billing in Denmark, and I saw the Lego Hall of Fame. And I remember I was tearing up. Like, I know it's kind of comical, but all those memories of like all those kits I had as a sets as a kid, when I would build this thing and build that. Oh, I remember I had that kit, and this was the one I always wanted but never got it. That's so cool. And like,
this is vintage.
It's all vintage. I have so many vintage Legos that are worth nothing to nobody. So anyways, that was some other things that were just good ties back to childhood memories. Anyways,
there's 2 other conferences if you can't make it, by the way.
Yeah. So Tommy, you're speaking some other places other than just Data Insight Summit. What are those conferences?
So one is the Data Bash, and I'm speaking Saturday. So if you're listening live, you're too late, but it's going on for a few days, which is awesome. But there's another one, the Data Platform Summit's going on for the whole week next week but it's all virtual. So I am speaking one of the days. I think it was like pre-recorded, but I'll be online for it. But that's I think they have 9,000 right now.
Yeah, this is the Data Platform Virtual Summit 2022, and there's a ton of sessions that are in there.
Yeah, so they all decided the same week in September.
I'm a little bit annoyed by this because it was like we're not having any events, and then all of a sudden every event is happening in September, and I'm just overwhelmed with all the amount of events at this point. I can't handle it. I wish people would have at least. Could you all have just talked together a little bit? Just spread it out just like about a month. Just to buy a month, I would have been happy with that. So, good grief. Anyways, well, with that, I think we've covered all of our intro level things. Any other intros or things that are happening that are interesting, guys? All right, we'll move right into the main topic. So the main topic for today is we're going through our 3-part series around people, process, and technology. This is the final part of the 3-part series. We've been doing this kind of every Tuesday for the last 3 weeks. Geez, it's been 3 weeks already. Can't believe it. It's flying by. So this is the final series around the technology piece. We've kind of been talking about technology throughout the other 2 portions of this, but this is going to be like a conversation focused on what is going on with the technology, what is happening. And we're going to probably maybe cater this a bit more towards what is happening in the BI space around the technology piece. What is coming in that is different now than it was previously. So yeah, let's thoughts on this one. Tony, where do your thoughts start on this one? How do you feel that the technology fits into this people, process, and technology theme that we're going with?
Yeah, so we're tying it all together, and you realize with all of this, technology disrupts and changes process, but at the same time, technology alone can't really affect success or without having a good process.
Technology alone doesn't
Alone,
affect.
alone.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but at this, like the technology you're using is going to dictate what process you put in place. But that being said, if you don't have a good process in place or people are not following it, then the technology will not be successful. And I think obviously I can substitute technology here for the Power BI platform. I mean, just think about how rapidly the other side of the coin is how rapidly the technology changes now in our space. I've been saying this honestly since I've been doing conferences and speaking since 2017, where I would say what I know now is only as good as now. 6 months from now, I will not be an expert in Power BI if I don't learn anything. And that's still so true. Everything that's going on in our space, we have to keep up with, and our process changes. We had the conversation with Charles Webb about the data marts. If that really takes off, that's going to change our process.
Yeah, that's true. What are your thoughts, Seth? How do you feel the technology piece fits into this people process ecosystem?
Yeah, I was trying to think real quick whether or not they all like carry the same weight in terms of the O factor, right? Like
Yeah.
if you choose wrong, like refactoring is going to be like hard to do. Like and ultimately, like technology to me fits into the easiest, like the goals of the company, like how you're trying to shift, how you're trying to change or grow, right? The tool to me is kind of almost like should be the easiest part of it, technically, from the standpoint that you've already decided what the goals are. You should determine like what the processes need to be in place to get there, and understand like how you need to retrofit or like shift people around, and then maybe it's choosing the right tools to help you execute, right? Like execute and tools to help you implement those processes, so that as you either readjust people or hire new people, right, you fit them into this framework that they can excel at. And I think that's where a lot of companies fall apart, especially, or don't get right from the rapid growth perspective, because in really small companies, you have like just the jack of all trades. Everybody's doing, whatever. And there's not a lot of that process. But then as you rapidly evolve, this is where that challenge really weighs in, and you see the breakdowns of like parts of this framework not working well and becoming disjointed, right? But having all those work together well, I think tools just support what your decisions should have already been. And in the data space, I would say ultimately having your data in a place that you could pivot if you needed to is really important. But at the same time, like being a Power BI guy, I think that is the tool of choice for a lot of reasons, which we've talked about 142 times before this.
Well, mostly diving into Tableau myself, but
so if I think about the three parts of this, people, process, and technology, I feel like you can. I feel like in a healthy organization, you're trying to balance all three of these things. It's kind of like juggling, right? You can. I think in one area where if you're weak on the process, potentially you can use the technology to compensate for some of the weakness in process. Sure. If you have weak people, you can use process and technology to kind of balance out the weakness at the people area. So, yeah, I mean, to some degree, I think you can. Whether or not it's going to be a long-term viable solution might be more debatable. But I think this is where you try to balance all three of these areas and influence all of them equally. And one of the things I would say is, when I look at technology, to me, technology is like it's the medium or it's the enabler for seeing the change in your organization, right? So I think about like Excel. Before Excel, it was maybe like Lotus 1, 2, 3, other types of calculating things, right? Excel comes into the world. You now have this new medium. And so Excel is so impactful that people at Microsoft building the tool says, oh my gosh, this is going to change how everyone builds reporting and analytics and BI in organizations. So much so that Rob Colley, who is a Microsoft employee of like 15 years, left and built his own consulting firm to help organizations use that new tool to help them do better analytical things at the business level. And so I feel like I'm seeing another shift of another technology shift here, where we're seeing the self-service BI pieces, right? Tableau comes on board about 10 years ago, maybe even more so now. Then Power BI about 6-7 years ago, right? These tools are now coming into place where we're doing visualizations and report building in a cloud, in a web browser. And those two aspects are now that technology piece. While we rely on Microsoft to build them, it's like an outside source to me. So like there's like this idea, like you could build your own technology in-house, but like at this point, it's now a matter of picking the right tool to buy technology so that it works well for you.
So I'm going to inherently disagree with you. I'm going to use your own words to do so.
Okay.
So one of the things, the main point that you mentioned was that technology can compensate for bad process or bad technology.
Okay.
I honestly could not disagree with you more on that, for the very fact that we've talked about people have left or stopped using Power BI at organizations because they didn't have the right people. And I think people and process are so intertwined. Like technology to me is obviously you adapt to the technology that you have, but you have to have something structured in place and you have to have the skill for it. People adaptation is the key factor for people and process dealing with technology.
I think we're going to fight on this one because this is going to be heated discussion. So, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I think I see your point, but on the other hand, I'm saying like, just because no one company is going to have all these things together. Nobody is. It's a perfect storm. It's too perfect to have all this entirely balanced. So I think inevitably there will be always organizations that have people. So even for the people skill set, right? People are going to come and go inside your organization. There's going to be a period of time where you have a lot of great people in the organization, and if the leadership doesn't provide the support and the encouragement to let the team do what they want to do, you're going to have brain drain. Those people will leave. So that people portion or that talent portion could suffer, and you're going to have a portion of time where the organization is not going to have the right skills in the people. So you're going to have to focus on building better process because using more technology to compensate for the weakness in the people area. And so I think an ebb and flow, but I for sure think that there are definitely companies out there that I've seen that feel like no one knows how to build reports, but we build this checklist, this process that's so robust that we can do our reporting that way.
So to me, I think the technology leg of this is the accelerator. If you choose the wrong technology, you're going to be going slower. If you don't know how to use, if you don't, I guess it's the same, right? Like if I'm with you all the way through the people part, I think is the largest driver on success, because people can make it happen, right?
Correct. Totally agree.
They can push past bad process. They can push past technology, right? But they're at an extreme cost.
Correct.
Right? And that's typically like
time or money,
burn out, and you're going to lose them.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly
so
right.
To your point, skills and knowledge are a huge drain on that people thing, right?
Yes.
But how do you overcompensate? I don't necessarily know if you can just solve that instantly with technology, right? I think it's a mix of process and technology where like, hey, if you don't have those leaders anymore in your organization and you just lost a huge knowledge gap, then you need to bring up the core of the individual. You basically like almost in levels, right? If you're level 10 levels and you were at level 8 as far as like knowledge of people within an organization, you just drop down to a 2. Well, these 2s need to get to 8 somehow. So if you don't have the processes in place, if you don't have the training, the technology, like you need to focus on that in order to raise the skill sets and levels of those people. Right. In the same way, if you have a high knowledge worker and you have the like poor process and poor technology, then you're going to be less efficient than you would be, and you're not going to get to your goal as fast, I think. Right. The people thing's a hard one, man, because it is probably the biggest impact, I think, out of all 3. Like you can pivot and you can choose like buy into new technologies. You can build new processes. But geez, dude, the drop off. That's a hard one.
Well,
So that one I would agree with, but I definitely do think people or companies in general can compensate for various areas in certain, by leveraging these other pieces.
So like technology changes the people and changes the process. You introduce a new, like if let's say your organization went from Power BI to Tableau, right? Well, no, but
What do you mean by that though?
So
technology changes the people and process.
I think what you're saying, Tommy, is if different technology or the technology is evolving, you as a company should look at the technology and then figure out how to evolve your process and people to conform or best leverage the technology.
Exactly. But it doesn't solve the people and process.
But I think that's an idealistic statement, because I've seen companies that come in and buy brand new software and they take all their old stupid processes that they had in the old software and they bring all those old things and they throw them into the new one and they say, well, this is how we do business.
I'm not saying that's successful. So yeah, it should change it.
I'm just making the argument that like not every time that technology changes do people actually sit back and say, let's 100%. Reevaluate what our process is. Let's reevaluate what the technology is. And maybe there's a shift based on the technology piece that's different. So
you're confined by the technology with the process you can do. If you had an input system, let's say a CRM system, and you went from Salesforce to CRM, you have to do a different process. You can't do the same thing.
No. This is where you
don't.
You do not.
A different interface with a different system.
No.
This is exactly what happens when companies come in and highly customize things.
And those people are idiots.
Tons of money.
No. Yeah. This is why I agree with Mike on this one, because to rebut the statement purely for the way you made it originally, Tommy.
Yeah,
I think 100% he's right. Your assumption that people who are ingrained in a process, whether or not it works or not, aren't just going to automatically go, you know what? We have a new technology. We have a new technology.
Yeah.
Let's understand the technology and let's reinvent our processes. Hell no, dude. 9 out of 10 times, anytime I've walked in, right? People are like, well, I know what I'm going to do. Like, it's the same thing. I'm just going to fit it into this new thing.
Yep.
Right. Because you're still doing some if statements in Power BI.
No, it's just people are used to what they know, right? So to come into a new situation and say, hey, we're going to learn or build this new thing or rethink this new thing. So I mean, this is one of the areas of like, if I've been a Tableau developer, here's a good example in Power BI terms. I'm a SQL developer and I show up at a Power BI report. I have seen a number of reports that when they're like, here's my data model, I'm like, okay, great, let's see it. I look at it. There's just a lot of tables that have no relationships, and I'm like, whoa, this is odd to me. I'm not seeing this before. And then I go look at the report side and I'm like, interesting. Each visual is pointing at a single table. And so what we're looking at here is someone who used to understand, like it was a thing in the day. You would build a view for the data you want to present inside the particular visual. And so instead of thinking about a star schema, we were thinking about, let's build all these tables and then let's build a visual off of that table. And if I need a different table, I'll go back to SQL, I'll engineer the data I need, boom, boom, boom. I'll produce the new table and that'll be my new visual. And then everything will refresh and it'll all be in sync. So it works really well, except there's no data model and nothing interacts with each other. And you're like, okay, this doesn't make sense. That is someone who took the technology, didn't take the time to learn it, and is using what they knew and said, I'm just going to keep doing what I know and just use it in the new technology. So there's other examples of this, but this is just one simple example.
I'll let you go, but I need to say this to retort. So at some point, there's a point of, I'm not saying that, every time you change the technology, everyone changes. Of course, people are set in their ways, but they're always eventually 100% of the time will become a point of conflict where either the technology reverts back or the people change or the people leave. But there's going to be a point eventually where something changes because either people we need to change the process.
Okay. Well, I think what you're painting, what the picture you're painting is probably where a lot of cycles that we've seen come in go in, which is somebody new comes in and they're the Tableau guy. Rip out Power BI, it's garbage. We're going to do all Tableau and force people and processes into a new technology, and then it fails. Right. And then the company hires somebody else and they come in and they go, well, I know this is the technology. This is the technology I'm going to use. Right.
Yep.
So like I'm biased, right, to some degree because I'm a guy that comes in and says, well, hey,
I know how to do this stuff in
This
this
Power
format
BI,
with this tool.
The Power
Yeah.
BI stuff. Here's why I like this and why I think it's better than other tools, because it solves these problems better.
Yep.
But if the entirety of an organization is all Tableau and everything's built around that, like I'm not going to go into that company.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to go reintroduce this thing because it's what I know. But a lot of that happens. A lot of that. And it has in the past too, where it really hurts, where you get the IT organization, right, which is built on infrastructure that goes this way, and then somebody just comes in and tries to dovetail it, and then the whole thing goes off the rails.
100%.
Yep.
So my argument is, regardless if the company changes in the right way or in the wrong way, as to your point, there's always going to be a point of contention, a conflict point, where either the company adapts to the technology or they revert back, or the people leave and
at
they
the
get
same
the right
time.
people
But
in.
this is where I'm saying, like, if you can align, if you already have like alignment on like the process, like the goal of the organization, like what is the goal that you're trying to achieve with, restructuring or regoing, at change, right? It's if these technologies are chosen for this purpose, these processes are chosen for this purpose, and alignment just needs to happen in the people realm, right? Like you have to bring everybody along at the same time, as opposed to like picking one of these things and saying it's going to solve everything.
Yeah, I think
Technology
there's also
primarily being that you're not going to just solve a single problem with technology.
correct. I agree with that, and I think there's this point of like, especially when where I've seen success happen very well with Power BI is when you bring on people who understand the technology, right? So there's also cases where people are building Power BI reports or bringing on Power BI reports. You can bring on a person who says they can build a Power BI report, but do they understand how to build a Power BI report? Do they understand what the model is doing? Do they understand how to do a model and thin report? And why? What are the reasoning for doing those kind of things? I've been in companies where I brought in Power BI. We have leveraged this, and I wasn't a part of the hiring process to bring on new talent to that company to own and manage Power BI moving forward. And the company became dissatisfied with the technology because the weakness in the people weren't able to support their reporting needs the way they felt. And so they said, well, now we're going to go to Tommy, to your point, right? New technology came in. They didn't have the people to support it, and the people weren't able to maintain it. Therefore, the technology got pulled out and they went back to what they know. So like, I agree with you in that point, Tommy. Like if new technology comes in, I've seen a number of use cases and I've seen millions of dollars being thrown away for people bringing in new software and saying, this is the way we're going to do things, and not being willing to understand how the software works and build new process to help the business run in that new framework of that tool. I mean, Power BI.
You know what we should do is we should just build like it's not even a tool. I'm going to open a new business. It's literally like, if you're choosing Power BI, hire me. I will charge you an exorbitant amount of money to find the right person, and it's not going to be a recruiter, right? It's you do need at least one core person that really understands it all, so that they can be the person that leads and trains others. Because
exactly,
because 100% agree with that. Like choosing technology and having people who don't know, right, or know enough, hiring people that then don't know enough and aren't learning or growing or building their knowledge sets is probably why tons of this stuff fails. Because they don't know any better. They don't know any better.
I know of two companies right now that you can contact immediately that will do exactly what you say, and they're both on this call. So if you have questions, put your name in the contact list of you go hit me up on
first to
Mike,
respond.
Mike at carloconsultants.com. You can get help here. Because I know two companies now that do it right now as you speak. But to your point though, Seth, so as this technology piece gets bigger though, I mean, I'm 100% agreeing with you, right? There's becoming this mass around, there are people who know a lot and understand the tool, and there are people who are just dabbling in the tool and say they know how to do things. So, how do you educate the team? How do you bring people on staff, at least for a short period of time, to be able to implement and build process, build reports, train, what does that center of excellence starting point look like? So that way, as the company goes, you already have this risen level of knowledge to a certain degree. And then, a rising tide kind of raises all ships here. Once you have that foundation, the center of excellence, an executive sponsor, get some of those key nuggets in place. Now you can let the department start feeding itself, because now you can measure the value and the benefit that's coming through via that mechanism.
I have a question, because I wonder if this is unique to Power BI, and we had this conversation with the process side, where how much do you need to know, or what processes do you need to put in place for Power BI? Is this a unique Power BI problem, or is this like if we were a Salesforce podcast, would we be having the same conversation? And I would argue personally that the answer is no. I think this is very unique, because we're not just doing a software. It's a soft skills, it's the culture, it's the modeling, it's the visualization. The idea that you can have a modeling person and a visual person, again, doesn't really exist now, because of the insights of the way the interaction is with process and people.
Interesting.
So let me propose that question then. Do you think this is uniquely a technological Power BI specific, not necessarily desktop, but the platform problem?
What do you think, Seth? What are your? I have opinions on this, but curious your thoughts on.
Go ahead. I'm
so
I caught some of the question, but I didn't follow completely.
Let me. I'll rephrase the question, and then I'll probably try to answer it. See how. Okay. So I think the question you're going after here, Tommy, is what we're seeing in Power BI, as far as if you are building, is this mismatch between the technology understanding and people showing up to do the work in companies. Is this solely a Power BI issue, or is this a different issue that is across other technology stacks or other industries as well, where people say they know how to do something, but really in reality, they really don't?
Right.
Is that what you're kind of going after the top?
Yeah, exactly. Is this a universal technology problem?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that. So, okay. So I can speak to things that I know, right? So I know this is a challenge in both app dev and in data dev and in Power BI. So to me, Power BI is the tip of the iceberg. Most companies like getting Power BI in, they're happy with it. And then underneath that tip of the iceberg of Power BI comes all this other stuff. Yeah. Synapse, data lakes, data engineering, movement of data. We've got SQL servers, how to get it out of there, like all this, the enterprise data warehouse. There's likely a larger pool of information that needs to be handled. And when you bring in people who are supposedly experts in Azure, sometimes you get different designs of that Azure system, and sometimes you get optimized for cost, and sometimes things get really expensive, or they turn on things that are like really not good and could charge you a lot of money in a short period of time, because even though they were supposed to be experts in that space, they didn't understand what they were building. And so I would say, to answer your question directly, Tommy, is this a Power BI centric thing? I would say no. I've observed this same behavior happening in other people who don't understand the technology or don't take the time to learn to get to a point where they're able to add value with these other technical tools.
Let me slightly rephrase the question then.
Okay.
Is Power BI the technology? Does it require more than most technologies, the process and people skills as well? Because again, unlike Synapse, you're not really dealing with data culture. With Power BI, not only should you have these skills in the technology, but the ability to deploy it, work with people, create that structured process, and build a data culture does not exist in a lot of other technologies.
I think it unifies easily under a single platform, but it's not recreating anything that hasn't been new to the BI space. It's just been easier to delineate between different parties that are creating business intelligence solutions.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Like it's Power BI. Well, yeah, man, but it's Power Query, it's ETL, it's transformation, it's model building, it's stacks measures, it's UI UX, it's like it's all in the same framework.
Yeah.
But it's not like these are new concepts that haven't been solved in other tools or other things in the past.
But it's also been building
I don't think it's unique to that.
Yeah.
But I would say it's more muddled, right? And which is why I'm a skeptic when, how would you rate yourself in Power BI? Well, what do you mean? What area? All of it?
On the others, yeah. No.
So Tommy, before you ask your question, let me answer. I want to answer too, because
Sure.
so I think your summary there is very good, Seth. I also see the same scenario inside app dev, right? The app dev solution
For sure.
is a very similar concept with Power BI is doing. We have this back end, JavaScript app-based technology team, people who like to build the app. And then there's like the UI designers of the app, right? So there's the people on the front end that are making it look pretty and looking at the user flow and the user experience. A lot of the developers don't care about that. They just want to make sure that all the things work and the buttons go when you click them. On the other hand, you have the people that are like, well, what does the button do? And how does the button make me feel? And it almost feels like two different sides of the brain that you're trying to get to work together. And when you find people that can do both, they're like a gem. And so,
well, I even
feel like that's in Power BI the same way.
I think it's the technical expertise, right, in different areas that is really important in organizations to find the right solution. And you need leaders in different areas, because in many cases, especially in the doer realm, right, everything's a nail and I'm the hammer. I know how to solve this problem in this way. Right. I can learn new things, but I'm not going to know what the app dev guy does. I don't know what his solutions could be. And when we bring those ideas back and forth, I think that's when, special stuff happens. Right. But the one thing I do want to make, though, in this conversation, right, is we've been talking a lot on the periphery and things like that. But where do you guys see data in the technology parts of this? Right. And the reason I'm asking this question is Power BI is designed in such a way, especially recently as we're scaling and growing, that you could go all in all the time. You could go deep, all in on Power BI, and to the point where as you scale up into the enterprise, it would be really hard to peel out of it. Not saying you'd want to, but I think one of those things I'm very cognizant of, especially when it comes to data, is when we're talking about data at scale and combining and putting data in places, I think it's very important when you're choosing technologies to have pivot points where, hey, Power BI is the greatest thing right now, but are there alternative solutions that I've chosen outside of other Microsoft frameworks right now? Yeah, because they're better, right? If you want my business, you want my service, raise that service, and maybe I'll buy into it. But
I'm thinking like DevOps and Jira.
To me, I'm thinking Databricks and Synapse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
True.
Like,
yeah.
But do you guys also think about that the same way, where your data, you try to separate that to some degree, or you like all in all the time? Right. Like, I think it might shift because this is a business tool. It can be, depending on the bit, it can primarily be a self-service business side tool. But at some point, there's an enterprise side to this too.
Yep.
Or organizations, like when you're all in on Power BI and there's no other competitor that makes it as easy to connect all these sources, like, is there an alternative right now?
So, and I think this goes to no, and I think you're right. I think you're completely right. But I think that's the side of the coin that I wanted to argue, but I think you feed right into it, because we're not just dealing with the skill of, yes, there's Power Query, there's DAX, there's visualization, there's modeling, but on the other side that is tied to data and Power BI is adoption and governance and usage and consumption, and how people, the process around using Power BI, requesting report, working with people. You change the technology here, you're changing all of that. That's not just a transfer of data going from Salesforce to CRM where it's a quick training. Like, people are relying on the process on how they're going to develop reports and the logic that's being used from consumer to developer. So you're ingrained, the skill for the people that are doing it and the skill for the people to consume it is completely ingrained with both that process and the governance side with the technological side of what Power BI is, because it's not a tool. And to Marco Russo, which I still love that he said, it's not a report-based tool, it's a model-based tool. So
I actually, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm good.
No, I would actually say, as I say that, I think there's actually two parts of this. Like, if I was going to choose technology of like Power BI, I think on an enterprise side, you could extricate pretty decently. Like, there'd be thrash, there'd be a little pain, but you could do it. But I think once you get integrated into integrating Power BI into your solutions, into your process, into your business, like, I don't think there's another tool out there that solves solves those business problems as efficiently and as good as Power BI, right? Can you think of like any other tool out there singularly that just lets you connect to like 4 different sources, compile it all, and build a report?
So
by itself?
Yeah. So I think I want to take your ideas as, so no, I haven't seen a tool that does that as well as Power BI does at this point, and at a price point at what it does, right?
Right.
It's freaking free.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
$10. Well, yeah, free for you to do that. You don't even need a pro license, right?
I don't even. I go download the software. It's on my machine. It's free. So to me, so this is where I think of the genius that comes from Power BI is.
Take my money.
Yeah, exactly. Take nothing of my money. Just give me the software. So on one hand, so if I think about this and say like, okay, looking at the technology wave here, there's kind of I want to delineate this into 2 things. I want to talk about the cube, the AS model, the tabular model. Mm-hmm. That is the secret sauce here that I think really makes this thing hum and makes it go. Will there be another solution in the future that's better than the tabular engine? There may be something in the future. There's definitely some competitors, I think, knocking on the door, like Snowflake and maybe Google's BigQuery. They don't do the exact same thing, but they are very fast at combing lots of data to get you a result quickly. That's the analytical engine that we're talking about. Now, the flip side of this is, to get to these other tools, you're likely always paying for something. There's some kind of things going on there. Like in Snowflake, I think this is how it works, is my understanding right now, is you give them your data, they optimize it and make it queryable in a very fast way, but it's in their servers in an environment they control, and you pay a lot of money to get to that, get to do that, right? On the flip side, I'm thinking about Power BI. Power BI is this, I think of Power BI data models being like the star schemas. It is the Kimball version of what a data model should look like. We got facts, we got dimensions, super fast. Then there's this other area where we're talking like enterprise data warehousing. Okay. So right now, my feeling is the technology that supports the enterprise data warehouse has been shifting. Typically, it was these massive SQL servers that were all this big stuff on the back end. And I think those are now being replaced with this lakehouse architecture. So the idea of having a single machine that has compute and storage all in one, it's not gone. It just has different use cases than what the enterprise data warehouse should be doing. And to me, that technology piece is the one you want to keep. You want to keep that technology agnostic. You want to use open source things. You want to use things that could be in any cloud, because where the data lives, you may want to use that.
Sure, you could choose open source things. Right?
Correct. So that's where I would choose the open source.
Lots of options, right? I think so. The licensing has been a key factor in this, right? 100%. Like you're integrating deeply into business for free, basically. You have premium licensing, which you just made even better than your own standalone solutions, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's where I am all bought in, like completely in premium, and that's where all my models are. And like I'm not messing around with its own instance and tabular model just to keep it separate.
Exactly right.
So there are those choices where you go deep into a certain area because the benefits are so good, right? Like, hey, it is a take my money kind of thing, like sweet, but it also is solving like a lot of the problems that or I would say concerns that you would have: cost, efficiency, like how like licensing, like just across the board, crushing it right now. And the premium Gen 2,
really good,
really good, huge improvement to the platform across the board.
Until someone can compete on those things, right? Until someone can compete on price, availability, and speed, right? Until those things are all met, I don't think you're going to be able to move to anything else.
That was the thing the point I was going to make when you were talking about Snowflake and like you have to buy these infrastructures, and to some degree like Databricks is like that as well.
You do the same thing.
To me it's like that's the data.
But I can go buy Databricks in Azure or AWS or Google.
Warehouse before
it works in any one of them. Mm-hmm.
The conversation point that's always been interesting to me is when I talk about a singular premium license, I'm talking about just an immense amount of infrastructure underneath
you don't have to deal with. You don't deal with it,
right? But it like that all was separate costs before.
Yes,
it's not just a reporting tool that I can share reports around on, right? It's not just this platform. It's like the entire infrastructure that I need to support that platform.
It's networking. It's virtual networks. It's it's SQL servers. It's analysis machines. It's like, but again, But this is where I think things are going though. So like when you can get companies like Microsoft that are at hyper scale, right?
Yeah.
To me, this only works when you have economies of scale. The fact that Microsoft can spin up a premium per user SKU, and it's the equivalent of giving you a P3, right? A 16 core machine with 100 gigabyte memory for the models. Like this is no competition.
Yeah.
Right. For $20 a month, I get all of this stuff for a single user. This is incredible. To me, the value proposition is so high here, but it only works because Microsoft can then share that infrastructure across a very large audience, and they can distribute that cost across many people. That's where the benefit comes from.
But that's not to me, that's not the real technological advantage here when we talk about technology, people, process, technology, because all that stuff is very much for that developer view, and obviously it affects the business. But even if you have someone who competes in this, the technology side here that I think, I don't want to say we're missing, but is the consumption side of this, because the technology still affects the consumer, the people who are using it, not just the people who are developing this. When we're speaking technology, we're speaking about the Power BI service or the Power BI embedded or the Power BI app in Teams. How am I consuming the data? Because that's really what it comes down to. All those features, great, awesome, cool. But if it's a lousy experience for the organization to consume the data, it doesn't matter.
Is the consumption of the data in Teams and sharing and the Power BI service and how the end user interacts with everything the developer is building part of the infrastructure?
It's part of technology.
It's part of the infrastructure.
It's part of technology
of Power BI. Yeah,
but yeah, it's part of the infrastructure of Power BI.
Then we were talking about it.
Yes, but I'm saying all the Databricks P3. No, I'm saying if you're the marketing guy going, cool, P3 Gen 2, awesome. They don't care about that.
Oh, no. Okay, so I want to delineate some. So I think Tommy, what you're making the point around is, so you're also talking. So you bring up an interesting point here, because Seth and I were purely talking on like from a developer perspective.
Yeah, you guys were nerding out.
How does this thing impact me? However, the usability of the report actually now heavily depends on the skill of your team. Because if you have people in your team building donkey-looking reports and they are not good and they are just awful, the marketing guy who's looking at this stuff going, this don't look good, I don't like this, it's not performant, it doesn't work. Yeah, their perception of Power BI is the reflection on the developer and what they can produce. And so this has been a great differentiator for me in my business, because Seth and I have been building Power BI tips. We've got these things called scrims. We've got these things called layouts. We've got these really high-end products that are like competing at the utmost premium level capacity of what good reporting can look like, because we know that building good-looking reports is part art and design. So it's kind of both sides of the brain here. So I think, Tommy, to your point though, right? There is a potential portion here is like if the people and the process aren't strong enough, the technology, while it may be very good, cannot fully shine and do all that it could do.
It is a good point, and it's also like,
I think it's a good point.
One to say
I
that
appreciate that.
all of the integration,
one good point today. Yeah, got it.
all the integration into Teams, into SharePoint, into wherever you want to consume those reports, PowerPoint, right? The investments in there also make that a stronger, point.
Yeah,
correct. Right.
So Seth, I like that point. Valid. I like that point too, because it's the integration points. And this is one that's been under Satya for a while now, that he's building a more integrated platform. More things are talking to each other across the Microsoft ecosystem. And to me, that's another great selling point, because, we've already got this great BI tool that's Excel. Can I get to the data in the Excel thing? Yes, you can. It's a live connected report. Right. Can I make a pivot table in my Excel online and connect it to a Power BI data set? Yes, you can. So to me, it's like now in Power BI, you have this much better three-legged tool. Like you need to do specific analysis things. Great. Here's your Excel. Go connect to this model. Go get the data. Boom, boom, done. Hey, you wanna just have a report emailed to you? Great. That's paginated reports. Boom. Go over here. Find that problem. Hey, you want an insight-driven report? That's Power BI. Let's talk about that. So now you have like, do I need access to data? You have two other tools that can give you the access in a governed way. And now you have another tool, Power BI, that's building insights on top of the data. And I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people trying to make a Power BI tool the access to the data tool. And I don't necessarily know that's always the right use case.
Let me give you a perfect example of how all of this really integrates from people, process, technology. Last month or just a few weeks ago, Power BI came out with the multiple audiences with Power BI apps.
Oh yeah.
So
good feature.
Yeah. Great.
I think that is a feature that's going to change how you Power BI.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it changes both.
It changes everything.
Process. Now, if you don't have the right people, they don't know this exists, or they didn't find it out. They're not discovered. They're not humble, hungry, smart. We talked about that.
Yep.
So now that person, if they are able, or in a sense, hungry and a student, they're like, hey, this is a cool tool. How can this work? They have to change a process on their in their internal team to
Great
say,
example.
Here's how we publish.
Yep.
And then they have to tell users, hey, there's now either you have security groups so people don't know it exists, or you're changing the process where there's that learning, or there's multiple groups in a workspace, or the multiple tabs, which then is based on the technology that Microsoft's constantly adapting.
Man,
that's where,
it's such a good point, because like this throws us right back into the conversation we just had with Charles, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I get hung up sometimes, because to me it's almost a byproduct. Like we're in this realm where we use this technological tool that keeps adding like such great features, and some of them like really like profound, or so much so that they could radically change my process. And that's part of my gripe, right? Like you're giving me this brand new feature and it doesn't work to just say, oh yeah, start using it, go forward, and then like all your stuff, leave it behind. Like, no, man, like if you're giving me this feature, like give me the process I would need to get into it, because that's just as important for people to start using it.
Yep.
And use it in my organization, because if it's that much better, like give me the road. Like lead me to water sometimes, as opposed to like just, oh yeah, now you can do this.
I don't care what it can do. I want to know what it should do.
All right, here's another good one that changes potentially process here, right? Well, no, maybe not potential, but I just was looking at the blog today on powerbi.com. There is now introducing Azure Active Directory based filtration for Power BI data marts. Remember when data marts came out? We're like, this is bogus. We can't filter an AD group and put it in data marts. Yeah. They've now added the feature. So now
RLS all the way through.
So, well, not only that, it's in the admin settings, you can turn off data marts for a specific team. So only certain team members who have access can go use data marts. So you can test it. So like
turn it on.
The tool is evolved. Great. So yay, that's a great feature. Microsoft. It should have been there from the beginning, but I'm glad it's there now. But like that is the kind of stuff that is very awesome that we're seeing, because to your point, Tommy, if you're not in tune, if the people are not in tune with the technology, you will be missing things that would enhance or improve your process or what you're building by learning about the tool. That's a great point.
This is why I love our conversations, because it takes people who are not just good at DAX. When we say people, it's that ability to take the new technology, want to learn, but then also look and go, oh, neat, and then move on. No, it's about how does this impact my organization or the people, and what needs to change.
Good update.
That's the skill. Update. That's the people. So,
well, I think with that kind of lull there, that was a great ending point. Tommy, you killed it. That was the great final point here. Let's just land on that one. We'll end on a high note. No more arguing. So I thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate you. Hopefully we'll see you today at the Data Insight Summit. We appreciate you all listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. So we really appreciate you and your time. Our only ask for you about listening to the podcast is please share it online, share it with somebody else. We'd love to keep getting the word out there. There are people that I still talk to that have no clue about the podcast. So please be vocal about it, share it, and find other people who you think would like it as well. We'd really appreciate you spreading the good word. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find it anywhere it's available: Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. The technology's there. The process is you subscribing, and the people are you. Which we
man, bringing it home. Love it. All right. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you later. Thank you very much.